So we got the SAMEBIKE LO26, which you saw the video. If you haven't seen it, check it out. And I talked about it a little bit in the last episode that I wanted to do some upgrading to this bike. So one of the first things that bothered me the second I got on the bike was the handlebars. I really don't like this twist throttle here. I also don't like the length of it, and I'm not a big fan of the shifters. The grips, I don't like either. So just a quick summary of all the things we're gonna do. We got these handlebars here. Add on some grips. Add this little baby right here. As far as the front suspension goes, the Malo front suspension air shock, which I got off of AliExpress. It's not an expensive one, you know, it's a copycat type deal, but I think it's gonna work well for what we want. We also have the D&M rear shock to replace that spring shock that's in the back. We have these lovely pedals, awesome pedals by M-9, I guess. Got these off of, I can't remember, AliExpress or Amazon. You can find these. For our drivetrain, we're going to be using an external bearing system, the IXF to a 1x system, and that's our front chainring. And for the rear part, we have a SRAM derailleur and cassette, and a SRAM shifter. And we're actually going to change this to a 1x, so we're only going to need one shifter. They're 26 by 2.25. Once again, it's a cheaper tire, but it's far superior to what's on there now. Self-sealing tubes. So we got a lot of work to do. Let's get to it. So I got the fork off. Weigh this one. This is the one that was on there before. And this one is way heavier. Quite extensively different. Hey, so you can see we've gotten a little busy with the bike here, and obviously it's not done. And I actually decided we're going to make this a two-part video because I ran into a few issues where I'm going to have to order a few parts, which I have already ordered parts, and we're just waiting for them to come in. So this is about as far as we've gotten for this episode, and I wanted to kind of break down some of the things that we've done and some of the problems we've run into. So let's take a closer look. So there's a lot of things about this bike whenever you're looking at it online that they don't really talk about in the details, you know. So there's a lot of, you know, mystery when it comes to what are the fine parts that they use to make this bike. And I don't think this is the type of bike that they really intended anybody to really mess with. Starting with the handlebars here, I'll show you what we've got done here so far. Now I'm using a right-handed SRAM shifter. It's kind of hard to see it in there. But the one thing about that is you can't have the twist throttle on the original side, the right side, which is okay. I did come up with a modification for that, and we will get into that more in the next episode. Alright, so for the threadless headset, we have these kind of standard style ball bearings. They're not cartridge or anything. And you have the cup there. Here's the bottom one, dust cap, which I believe is for the bottom. And you have the top piece here. You have a rubber gasket. This little piece of plastic here that I guess is like a dust cap as well. Bottom bearing race. Now you'll see it's not all the way at the bottom. I tried to get it to the bottom, and that was one of my problems that's postponing this build a little bit here. One other problem I had with this headset, I just tried to see if I could get it to fit into the inside of the threadless headset here. For some reason, whenever I got all of these on the top with the bearing, when I tighten everything down, it's like it's sticking, like it's making contact with something other than the bearing. And everything I saw online, it looks like I'm missing a piece. I'm missing like a top part here that's supposed to make contact with the bearings, so that the handlebar isn't, you know, making contact with the frame. So what I ended up doing is ordering a whole new bearing system, and we're gonna start from scratch on that. You can see the old wheels here. The new ones are looking pretty nice. Pretty happy with the results on those. Now, speaking of the wheels, there's another problem, which is probably one of the biggest problems that I ran into. It was kind of a letdown. So I planned on using the SRAM rear cassette to replace this one. And unfortunately, it is a Freewheel. Basically, completely different mechanism with the way they're not compatible whatsoever. On a normal bike, you would just replace the entire inner piece of the wheel because there's no way to adapt that. Now, on an electric bike, there definitely is no way to change that because the actual mechanism goes through the motor. So basically the system that you're stuck with, this being a Freewheel, is what we get. And that becomes a problem too because I wanted to turn this into a one-by, so I can't just leave this the way it is to be able to successfully make this into a one-by because there's not enough teeth to give me enough torque. What I decided to do was I ordered a whole new Freewheel set. And another little problem, standard for electric bikes, is that this would actually be able to be disconnected very easily. Basically, all the wires, they connect to a controller, and because of this system where there's no way to disconnect it easily, everything runs directly to the controller in one wire. So it runs all the way through here, multiple zip ties, all the way up into here, and then you actually have to unscrew this, pull that out, pull this out, find the cable coming through here, and then you have to pull back some covers and loosen some wire connectors, and just, you know, pay attention to the stuff you're taking apart. And then you can disconnect it, and then you can pull it back through. And that's how you get the actual motor out. One other problem that comes into account with this is if you were trying to remove this freewheel, you would stick a tool in here, twist it because this is on a thread, and then this will unlock like a nut. You actually have to have a tool with a hole in it big enough to fit over this through axle, and obviously you're gonna have to go over the cable as well. This one uses a 12 spline and 23 millimeter lock nut. And then one last thing that I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna actually have to remove this piece here. So I'm gonna have to disconnect all those little wires in there and keeping track of each color. Pull that off. Then I can actually pull these off. And then once I get all of that off, then I can put my lock nut over the top of this and put it all the way into there to get that off. So, word to the wise, it's not straightforward like on a normal bike where you just take the wheel off and you can just go right to it, or even an electric bike, regular normal electric bike. There is going to be some hoops you're going to have to jump through to make that happen. Alright, so one last thing I want to mention about this bike. There is one major issue that a lot of people who have this bike complain about. That problem is basically the rattling sound of the battery inside the bike. And there is one solution. Take some electrical tape in the front and in the back, and you can kind of play with this. You do a couple of layers and then you kind of do it one layer at a time until you get it really snug. It should minimize it quite a bit, which it did for me whenever I first started doing this. Alright y'all, that's it for this episode. We're going to catch you on part 2 of the same bike build, and we're going to take it for a test run when we're all done. So we'll catch you on the next one. And don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll catch you later.